This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
There might be folks that have been with us for the past few weeks listening to the show. There might be even some new folks out there. Explain to them what is different in your approach, in your process, maybe in just your education alone that helps you, have this conversation with folks. What makes you different, bigger, and better than the other guy down the road? Why should folks come in and visit with you?
Well, I don't know that I'm bigger, but I think we absolutely are better in some respects, and a lot of it is simply admitting that we have our limitations. I can't be all things to all people, but we absolutely are all things to some people because we take a comprehensive approach that addresses all resources. So we're looking at maximizing resources that other people don't integrate. For example, home equity. That's something that most people leave completely off the table, but we find that we can improve a person's estate by about a third when we implement home equity maximization strategies. Certainly we talk about the Social Security the way you've described, for example. One of the big issues with us is we talk about health care. It's said that less than 7% of advisors, according to studies, less than 7% of advisors are talking about long-term care. Well, that's the big time bomb that blows up people's plans. And so we're looking at all of these issues, and every invested dollar is being invested for a particular purpose, a particular outcome. So everything we're doing is very strategic. None of this is by chance. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to, are we listening or not? I think that's the big thing is we've got to get to know one another. I'm not a good fit for everyone. I'm okay with that. And not everyone's a good fit for my firm. We've got to deal with people that, I have 3 requirements. They have to be nice, they have to be teachable, and they have to be optimistic about the future. If they're optimistic about the future, we can absolutely help them. But we can't help them if they're not teachable, for example. And so everything we do is really geared around education. And, we're not salesy in the sense of trying to coerce people or anything like that. We're inviting people to learn about solutions that they're not aware of. And so we have I have a team of people. It's not a one-man shop or one-man approach. There's a team of people with varied professional experience, designations, and we bring all of that to bear when we help clients. And so at the end of the day, our whole goal is for you to retire with income you can't outlive, that's tax advantaged, and that's protected. And we're going to do that in a customized plan where we design it. First we got to discover what your needs are, of course. That's all the conversations. But then we design a plan that's customized to you, and then we deploy that plan. We call it the 3 Ds, and it's all with the goal of getting people to a work-optional lifestyle. So if that work-optional lifestyle appeals to people, we say, come visit with us. That's absolutely where we specialize.
Are you a fan of the big Broadway musical hit Hamilton, Mark? Have you seen it? Do you want to see it? Where do you stand there?
My family's big into musical theater. That's not my favorite, but I think it's one of my daughter's favorites. So,
yeah, it's a great show.
Quite creative.
And during those 10 years, it's won 11 Tonys, a Grammy, and even a Pulitzer Prize. I mean, come on. And then, no big deal, it's grossed like $1 billion worldwide.
Yeah, minor detail.
Just a little Broadway thing, not a big deal. Some who have gone to see the show, it seems they come away just a little confused, talking about my friend comedian Sebastian Maniscalco.
So this thing starts. 10 minutes into Hamilton, I tap my wife. I go, I got no idea what's going on. I couldn't understand it. I didn't even know what Hamilton did. I went to this play to find out why this guy was so fabulous. And you got to understand something about my wife and I. We are dumb. I'll tap my wife. I go, you know what's going on? She's like, no, you? Nothing. We just sit there. Dumb.
Well, that same mentality, listen, we've all been there once in our life, whether it was in grade school, college, or out on a date or something like this. You just kind of shake your head and you go, yeah, sure, but you have no idea what's happening. It got me thinking about planning for retirement, how there's probably been some people that have sat across the table from you, Mark, and you're explaining, and they're kind of going along with you, but you could tell their eyes glaze over, that they have no idea what's happening.
They're not
there. Yeah, and you gotta press the pause button and slow things down a little bit.
I find him funny there because I kind of had the same reaction to Hamilton. I can't keep up with the fast pace of the rap and all that. I find myself, even though I very much know the history of it and I love the music. And yes, you're right. It is that way sometimes with retirement planning discussions. And, for some people, it's just a new language. And so they're intimidated too. It's this feeling that they're going from a certain paycheck to paycheck kind of a 40-year work experience and then going into this great unknown. And so I think the anxiety of it is probably what blurs it even more. I mean, we try very hard not to use the industry jargon, where we go over people's head and all. And I'm sure that I fail at that, and I'm not perfect either. But, I've spent 30 plus years trying to learn to speak in a manner that people will understand. But at the end of the day, if people are nice and they are teachable and they're optimistic about their future, that's what gets them to come in with us. And those are our criteria to work with people. Mm-hmm. If they're nice and teachable, we always are going to be able to bring them greater confidence. They'll always leave with a greater perspective than they came in with, and those who choose to work with us get the outcomes that they desire, because we can bring science and art to this, and we can absolutely give them the confidence they need.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, there's a few things in life that I want to take full control over. When I take my car in and the guy wants to explain to me exactly how the brakes and the rotors and all this works with the engine, I'm kind of looking at him like, just fix it. I don't need to know how the donuts are made.
Amen.
But, right? Just fix it. Tell me how much it is. But when it comes to my money and my retirement, you better believe I'm going to be asking all the questions. I want to know why, how, when. Is there a better option? Is this the only option? And if I don't understand what you're saying, I do it right here on the show, Mark, all the time. I go, hold on a minute, back up. What are you talking about? And I think that's important that people do that when they sit down with you. This is not
amen.
The time to be polite and sit back and just go, sure, I get it, and then leave going, I don't know what just happened to our life savings, but I guess it's going to work out. That's not the thing to do.
We have an expression here in the office, and it's 60% of the acceptance of all ideas comes after the sixth hearing. So in other words, you have to hear something 6 times before even 60% of it sticks. Mm-hmm. 6 times. And so we purposely build into our conversations a lot of repetition. And we constantly are inviting people to come back and revisit it. It's kind of like church. You go every Sunday, you hear the same message. It's not that it's new. It's just that it takes a while to sink in, And so we invite those questions because this is sacred money. I mean, I don't use that term lightly. The money people have saved for retirement represents a lifetime of sacrifice and effort. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to have confidence individually, meaning I as the customer need to have confidence that the advisor is giving me dependable and good advice. And if I'm not comfortable with it, yes, absolutely, you need to keep asking those questions until you are comfortable with it. And sometimes it's just a matter of rephrasing, But that's why we need advisors, because we typically only get one shot of doing retirement right. And so we can't leave this to chance. Ask your questions. Please, please, please ask your questions.
Back in April, the stock market, it actually went down almost 20% in just a couple days. Then it bounced back in a week, and now it's near the highest point of the year. But if you panicked and you sold, you might be wondering, well, what do I do now? An MIT study found that the people who tried to time the market and got burned, 30% are out of the stock market for good. So what would you tell somebody who sold during the crash, Mark?
Well, first off, don't sell during the crash. It's kind of like the roller coaster. We love it when it goes up. We hate it when it goes down. But you don't jump off when it goes down before the ride is done. That's where the fatalities occur, and we don't want fatalities. Mm-hmm. Jumping out of the market when it's down invariably causes people to lose out on that upswing. And because God alone knows when it's going to swing back up, we've got to stay in the market. There's been some fascinating studies. I just read another one by Fidelity that basically said that over the last 40 years, if you missed the top 10 days in the market, you would end up with like 47% of what you should have had. So in other words, if you miss 10 days out of a 40-year period, you lose half of the opportunity. Well, truly, God alone knows when those 10 days are going to occur. You and I cannot forecast that. And so we can't be in this attitude of, hokey pokey, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, trying to guess when to get in, when to get out, and trying to make those decisions based upon some historical track record, which will never repeat itself in the future. And so that's a number one mistake, is trying to time the market and trying to do so based upon past experience. If you're going to be in the market, it needs to be for periods of 10 years or more. We need to be thinking long term. And that's what it does phenomenally well, is it grows money over time. Now, if you cannot endure those 20% kind of swings in there, well, then some of your money needs to be out of the market. And we can absolutely help you with that. You don't always give up returns by moving money out of the market into alternative investments. We can show you alternatives that are principal protected, totally safe. They give you that peace of mind and confidence you need, because that effectively buys you time to wait for the market to swing back up the way it invariably does if we're patient.
Mr. Mark Cordner, are you a fan of Paul McCartney or the Beatles?
Oh, heavens, yes. Very musical family, and absolutely grew up singing all the Beatles songs. Heavens, yes. It's amazing that he's still going strong, He's just like an Energizer bunny, I swear.
He sure is. He sure is. He is not ready to retire, as you talked about at his age. He's actually 83, and he's hitting the road once again with his Got Back tour. And McCartney says he's getting really no signals to slow down or stop.
As far as retiring is concerned, it's nothing I'm looking forward to or even thinking of. I've always said that as long as people want to come and see me, then I'll probably do it. I'll probably feel like doing it. The minute I start to feel like sort of, shuffling around in the audience and going, oh, it's not very good, is it? Or the tickets aren't selling well, then I'll get the big message of, ding, it's time to go.
Well, I think he's got a long time before people stop buying tickets and before people stop showing up. I mean, he's one of the icons, so I think he's got a while there. But it got me thinking about people you work with that say, you know what, I love what I do. I don't want to hang it up. I'm ready to keep going to work for the next 3 to 5 years unless they kick me out. How does that conversation go, even when they have plenty and they can retire today?
Well, yeah, that conversation is very common for us. I mean, I could retire, but I choose not to. I love what I do. I love helping people in the manner I do, and the studies are overwhelmingly clear that those people who have passion and purpose in their life live longer and they're happier. Now, that doesn't mean that I need to continue working 100-hour weeks the way I did in my earliest years of my career. I'm phasing back slowly as I get older, but I still want to be engaged. And there are many people in today's knowledge economy who, like myself, are able, we're not digging ditches. And so as long as the brain is working, we want to stay engaged. And so a lot of professional people, I work with a lot of attorneys and some degree doctors who feel like they just want to stay engaged in the game, and I'm among them. So we talk about a work-optional lifestyle, meaning if you had to quit because your health changes, well, then you'll be okay financially. But if you choose to continue to work, you're still okay. So it's really not about retiring to a life of luxury. It's about having financial independence so you have choices, so that you have dignity. I can think of a particular attorney that I just idolized when I was a teenager, family friend who, his attitude is he wants to work forever, which is great. His father worked into his early 90s. But I think, if only he was better prepared, because he hasn't prepared. He's just assumed, he lives large, probably spends 100% of every dollar that comes in. And so there's really not a lot of cushion there is my point. That's the one problem with that thinking is you've still got to be living on less than you earn. You've still got to have security so that if life goes a different direction than you want, you'll still be okay. So work optional lifestyle with protections in place, because you and I don't have control of life. God alone knows what's coming.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.